The indispensable role of accounting professionals in any economy cannot be overemphasized. Now, amid the economic downturn and its excruciating effects, the need to x-ray the importance of these professionals has become more pressing. As the backbone of any economy, accounting professionals are responsible for ensuring the financial health and stability of businesses, organizations, and government agencies. Now, experts say as Nigeria continues to evolve and grow, the role of these professionals will become even more critical, and by recognizing their contributions and supporting their development, the government can ensure that Nigeria achieves its full economic potential. For this conversation, we are now joined by the President, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Dr. Innocent Iweka Okwuosa. It's good to have you with us on Arise News.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's good for having me here.
Okay, good. So if we start, how do you think ICAN's voice can be heard when it comes to Nigeria's economic policies, of this administration? Are the authorities actually listening? We've gone through the zero subsidy regime, and of course the tax regimes, of course the interest rates by the CBN currently. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria is interested in government economic policies to the extent that it helps us to achieve our public interest mandate. And our public interest mandate is the welfare of the vulnerable, the poor in the society. And for this reason, we try to follow the economic policies of government by making our voice heard. In this administration, we have issued 9 position papers, cutting across the different policies that government has rolled out, this present government, from the removal of fuel subsidy to the unification of the exchange rate, to floating of the naira, to the recent hike in electricity tariff, whether they call it removal of subsidy, electricity subsidy. And all our objective is to make sure that government put a human face in all this economic policy in line with our public interest mandate. Are they listening? Of course, I would say they are listening because part of our voice in this economic policy includes the ICAN Accountability Index, because the ICAN Accountability Index is an instrument rolled out to support the accountability and transparency in the management of public finance in the economy. And then when we say, are they listening? I say, yeah, they're listening. Recently, we got an invitation from the Office of the Vice President to make a presentation to National Economic Council on the ICAN Accountability Index. And that's an indication that they are hearing what we're saying. Also, we do an engagement where we visit a particular governor or head of an MDA, and we show them their performance on ICAN Accountability Index, and they get interested and they want to know, why are we in this position? So we have a case of a governor that came from the private sector that was at the bottom level of the ICAN Accountability Index, and when we presented the report, he wanted to know, how did we get to this position? In the next edition of the ICAN Accountability Index, it was among the top third performers. So it is an indication to us that they are really listening to what we're saying. Indeed. In the past also, we've had a case where a central bank governor came up with a policy, and when ICAN issued his position, he gave up. He said, oh, even you ICAN, you're also joining them. And so we know that government listening to what we say.
It's good to have a watchdog, eh, Awa?
It is. It's good. It's very good. So just to expound more on that, the role of professional accountants in politics, what exactly is your role within governance in Nigeria? What role have, other than the anecdote that you shared with us, but what other roles have professional accountants played in helping to drive our economic development within Nigeria?
Good. So the professional accountants, as you know, are the CFOs in the private sector. So they drive the private sector. Within the public sector, chartered accountants are also at the helm of affairs when it comes to issues around budgeting, public finance management, project execution, and monitoring. So if you look at the combination of the accountant being in charge of the private sector as well as the public sector, it gives you an idea of the role of professional accountants in governance. But essentially, theirs is to ensure that there is accountability and transparency in the management of public funds. And for those that have been entrusted with governance, how are they discharging that duty? So primarily, that's what accountants do. And they have discharged this function very well. When accountants are entrusted with such duties, they have gone out of their way to. So we have a case of the committee that came up with the report on the rationalization of MDAs, Ministry, Department, and Agency. That was an accountant that chaired that committee, Mr. Orosanya, so to say. Also, we have on record that it was when a chartered accountant was a minister for finance that Nigeria produced its first balanced budget. And that tells you how accountants are passionate about what they do, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. I think there's a second question you asked.
Okay, you know what, let me just come in here, just an question here. You know, I'm glad you mentioned the issue of public finance. And if we go way back at the last administration, there was emphasis on the TSA, the single treasury account, to a large extent. That was supposed to plug all manner of loopholes. You have government having so many bank accounts, as it were. But how proactive has that concept been, and the role of accountants in that regard?
Yeah, so again, the person in charge of the Treasury single account in office.
Is this still functional?
Yes, I would say still functional.
To a large extent?
To some extent.
Okay.
It is also a chartered accountant. So I was in a conference outside, a conference of accountant generals in Africa. And the Accountant General of Nigeria came to present a paper on the Treasury single account. And from the presentation made, it is clear that they are making progress. It doesn't look like it's something that will happen overnight, but at least from when it started up to now, they reported progress that that they are making. Of course, when you start a policy, you don't expect that the result will just come overnight.
Okay. It takes a little time to get to fruition.
Well, can we delve a little bit into some of the challenges that accountants and your profession are facing globally and locally, and how ICAN is trying to support its members in tackling some of these challenges? Good.
So if I go to the global challenge facing the accounting profession at the moment, it's technology and artificial intelligence. And what we see is artificial intelligence coming to take over some of the jobs that the accountant is doing. But we've come to know that artificial intelligence can only take over the repetitive jobs that accountant does. But in doing that, it also creates another skill set that the accountant ought to develop among themselves. And this is where ICAN is helping its members to develop those skill sets. We're looking at the soft skills of the professional accountant, behavioral skills, the issue of ethics, and they're all going to come in more in what the accountant does. Another challenge globally is that of sustainability.
Okay.
So in sustainability, the accountant is being called upon to lead in enthroning sustainability, whereby organizations will look at social and environmental impact of the operation, so that we can have a world where future generation will be able to live, as opposed to the present generation just focusing on meeting their own needs without thinking about future generation. And that's where the accountants have been called upon. And the saying is that only the accountant can save the world. And when we say only the accountant can save the world, people misconstrue that concept. It's simply because of the fact that accountants speak business language. And we're calling upon business to get on board sustainability. So it takes the accountant language to bring on board businesses to begin to hear this language of sustainability that we're talking about. Incidentally, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria has led efforts, and Nigeria became the first African country to announce the adoption of the International Sustainability Standard Board, IFRS S1, S2. That's the sustainability standard that we have there. And again, sustainability calls for another skill set within the professional accountant. Behavioral skills, ethical issues, and soft skills that I have talked about. And ICAN has been very proactive in this area. As far back as 2010, ICAN commissioned a research that addressed the role of professional accountants in sustainability reporting. And ever since then, we have ramped up capacity building. Our initial professional development qualification has been, that is the syllabus, has been revised to incorporate those skills, and sustainability is embedded in all the subjects that are relevant to develop those skills. Recently, the International Federation of Accountants, IPAE, conducted a survey on awareness of the knowledge of sustainability, and the ICAN Chartered Accountant came first among those who have that knowledge. Similarly, PAFA, the Pan-African Federation of Accountants, conducted a similar survey, and the ICAN Chartered Accountant also came tops among those who have this awareness of sustainability knowledge. So that's the global picture of what is facing us. Locally, we are faced with a situation where there is, I used to use the word balkanization of the accounting profession, where you have multiplicity of people coming to say they are in the same profession. And we have engaged. Before, people used to think that the ICAN does not want other professions to. But this is a station where other people don't want ICAN to practice what they are used to. In 1965 was when ICAN came on board. And as at that particular point in time, ICAN, as a professional body, can engage in all the practices of accounting, including taxation, forensic audit, auditing, assurance, and all that. But today, you have challenges, people saying, oh, no, you can't go into this area. Oh, you are not. But we have engaged with the relevant authorities and the stakeholders to ensure that this does not continue to constitute a change. There is also the issue of quacks. And quacks and unauthorized people who engage in the practice. And ICAN has also engaged its professional practice committee to come up with measures that will prevent these quacks from engaging.
Very good. In the field of probity, accountability, and of course transparency, the role of ICAN can certainly not be ignored. Dr. Innocent Iweka Okwuosa, President, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, it's good to have you with us on the show.
Thank you.